Okay, we're working on getting the manifold installed today, so this part of the video is going to be about just the manifold assembly and installation. So I'll show you the different parts. This is your throttle body, which comes with the gasket, and you got these 4 Allen head screws that go on there. I put a little blue Loctite on there just to hold them in. This is your throttle position sensor, which comes with some screws and a lock washer that goes on there to hold that on. So that gets installed. That's all included with the kit. Your intake air temperature sensor, which has threads into a bung on there. That's pretty self-explanatory. Here's one of your injectors, which will go in like so. And then this is your fuel rail, which you can see attaches this way, and then just screws onto these those studs there, I guess, if you want to call them. This is your map sensor, which is your manifold absolute pressure. One thing you will have to buy if you get this style of map sensor is some 3/8 vacuum hose. So there's already these nipples on here that this can go. You can thread your or put your hose onto there, and then the other end just goes into the map sensor. This is 3/8 vacuum hose. I bought silicone stuff. It doesn't have to be this long. The instructions require you to just attach this, basically tie it off somewhere after it's installed. So I may just put it on the bottom of one of these runners like this and zip tie it or something. I think there's an updated one coming that threads into the bottom of this, and I'll show you here. So there's this bung. This is too big, or sorry, too small. Obviously it has some play that doesn't fit. So it comes with this little 3D printed adapter with an O-ring, and that fits in there and seals that up. I guess the new map sensors aren't calibrated yet, so that's why you get this one. But those new ones may be available later. And that would just fit in there, and you don't have to worry about it. But either way, it comes with this 3D printed blanking plate that covers up this part, and that's where your idle air control valve is. The only reason you would need that is if you're running air conditioning or something else that puts a load on the engine at idle. Maybe like an electric fan that has a clutch, but obviously our cars don't have anything that does that, so you probably won't need that. But that's what this part is. The silver part comes attached to the throttle body when you get it. This piece, the black part, is part of the kit. I just screwed it on here so I don't lose it. But you'll just pull that off. The gasket's already pre-attached to the housing, so you just screw that on there and you're done. That's really about it for the manifold. So I'm gonna get all this torqued down, and then we'll go get it put on the car. Oh, another thing you'll need to buy is some red RTV silicone to put around these flanges so you get a good seal when you attach it to the gasket onto the motor. So once you get that done, you can get your injectors installed, get your fuel rail on, get everything torqued down. That's pretty much the end of it until you need to run your fuel line, which I haven't quite decided how I'm going to do that yet. So let me get some of this together and I'll get back with you. All right, so manifold's back on. I bought new bolts for this top here, which you're gonna have to do because the originals, they come off the manifold for the carbs are way too long. I don't remember exactly what the thread pitch is, but I think they're 1-inch bolts, and I thread down in there. Torqued them to 20 foot-pounds. I think the manual calls anywhere from 20 to 25. Those are stainless steel bolts. It's the only ones I could find at the hardware store with a fine thread, so I didn't torque them down terribly tight. Now we have to put the nuts back on the studs, which also holds on that little, it's like a bracket that basically puts pressure against the exhaust manifold and the intake manifold at the same time. So hopefully you didn't lose those when you took it apart. So we'll get those torqued down. Then the manifold will be all tightened up, and then we can start getting the injectors on and install the rest of the throttle cable. Okay, now that's all tightened down, the last step is to run your throttle cable attach it up here. There's going to be a little bit of slack in this. You see it's not perfectly straight. It kind of hangs down a little bit, and I think that's normal. So now I measured this. I marked it with the Sharpie. You probably can't see my mark on there. But we're going to cut this. I'm going to use a diamond cutoff wheel on my Dremel. And then this little ferrule attaches on there. And there's a small Allen head, excuse me, like a pinch bolt that goes in there. It secures the throttle cable. And then this piece fits through a little hole in there, right there. So when your throttle cable's attached, it'll be attached there. And then as this mechanism works, that's what holds the whole thing in there. So we'll get that cut off, get this ferrule put on, and then that'll be it for the throttle body. Okay, so throttle body cable's installed. This is a point where you really need to adjust your gas pedal to make sure you're getting a wide open throttle. You can see this tang right here makes connection with the back, this piece right here, and that's when you're at wide open throttle. So I'll show you if you're looking at your throttle body, when that makes contact, that's when you're wide open. So it was a combination of adjusting the gas pedal like I showed you in an earlier video, and then I made the fine tune adjustments with that nut that's in the firewall that the gas pedal actually comes up against. So now if I adjust the lever back here, you'll see when we get to wide open throttle, that tang is just before it makes connection with that. So I'm happy with that, and the throttle body is fully open. So that was a little bit tedious, but not overly difficult. So now we'll get the air filter and injectors installed. All right, so everything's hooked up. Injectors are in, fuel rails in. I did have to ream these holes out a little bit where it threads into this part down here. It wasn't quite lining up, so I just ran the next size drill bit through it. And it worked out okay. That takes a 5mm Allen key to put that on there. The fittings, the AN fittings threaded on here, good and tight. I bought a fuel pressure gauge. I was just playing around with this, how it's going to fit, and how some of these fittings are going to go. Nothing's set in stone yet. So I hooked up the vacuum line for the map sensor, and we'll hide that down here somewhere, or maybe tie it off down here somewhere. I haven't really quite decided yet. So that's about it for the manifold. The next part is getting the gas tank and everything installed and plumbed up, and then we're getting close. We're on the home stretch, so victory is within reach. So stand by for the next episode. Appreciate it. See y'all later.